Hello everyone, good evening. I'm Shreya Dhondial. As always, it is good to see you. China shares land borders with 14 countries and has a territorial dispute with 23. But the two countries that are closest to a conflict with the dragon are India and Taiwan. China has passed a land law legitimizing its aggressive actions at the LAC, the boundary it shares with India. It is a no-war, no-peace situation in eastern Ladakh right now, where the standoff with the PLA is entering its 18th month. 5,000 kilometers away, in Taiwan, the country's president is saying the threat of Chinese invasion is growing every day. In fact, that is what we are starting debrief with today. A CNN exclusive with Taiwan's president, who is confirming American troop presence in her country and saying why China should be under no illusion that the Taiwanese people will bow down to Beijing's pressure. Take a look.
At this temple in Taipei, prayer and politics go hand in hand for Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen.
Normally, when I go to the temple, there are hundreds of people there. I will shake hands with each one of them.
People are remarkably happy, at ease.
You have to give them a sense that there's somebody there to take care of them.
Elected in 2016, Tsai won re-election by a landslide last year on a promise to keep people safe from what she calls a growing threat across the Taiwan Strait. Is Taiwan more safe today than it was when you became president in 2016?
If it's a threat from China, it's increasing every day.
The mainland's massive military, 2 million strong, more powerful than ever. China flew 150 warplanes near Taiwan in just 5 days this month. This democracy of more than 23 million, governed separately from the mainland for more than 70 years since the end of China's civil war, still seen as a breakaway province in the eyes of Beijing's communist rulers, who have never controlled the island. China has pressured most of the world to sever formal diplomatic ties with Taipei. Chinese President Xi Jinping says reunification is only a matter of time. Are you interested in speaking with President Xi? Would you like to have more communication with him?
Well, more communication would be helpful so that we would reduce misunderstanding, given our differences in terms of our political systems. We can sit down and talk about our differences and try to make arrangements so that we would be able to coexist peacefully.
Your predecessor, as you know, did meet with President Xi. Why do you think that the communication has really gone south since 2016?
Well, I think the situation has changed a lot, and China's plan towards the region is very different.
That plan includes war threats over Taiwan, clashes with Japan in the East China Sea, and militarizing man-made islands in the South China Sea, posing a direct challenge to 7 decades of U.S. military supremacy in the Indo-Pacific. In response, the U.S. ramped up arms sales to Taiwan, selling the island $5 billion in weapons last year. President Tsai confirms exclusively to CNN U.S. support goes beyond selling weapons. Does that support include sending some U.S. service members to help train Taiwanese troops?
Well, yes. We have a wide range of cooperation with the U.S. Aiming at increasing our defense capability.
How many U.S. service members are deployed in Taiwan right now?
Not as many as people thought.
Defense Department records show the number of U.S. troops in Taiwan increased from 10 in 2018 to 32 earlier this year. The State Department asked for more Marines to safeguard the unofficial U.S. embassy in Taipei. Any U.S. military presence in Taiwan, big or small, is perceived by Beijing as an act of aggression, state media says. When reports surfaced earlier this month of U.S. Marines training Taiwanese troops, China released this video, a training exercise targeting Taiwan independence and interference by external forces like the U.S. A warning for President Joe Biden, who vowed to defend Taiwan at this CNN town hall last week.
So are you saying that the United States would come to Taiwan's defense if China attacked?
Yes, we have a commitment to do that.
The White House later walked back Biden's comments. They seemed to contradict the long-standing U.S. policy of strategic ambiguity, leaving U.S. military involvement in Taiwan an open question.
People have different interpretation of what President Biden has said.
Do you have faith that the United States would defend Taiwan if the mainland were to try to move on Taiwan?
I do have faith, and given the long-term relationship that we have with the U.S. and also the support of the people of the U.S. as well as the Congress and the administration has been very helpful.
Taiwan's defense minister says China could launch a full-scale war by 2025. He says military tensions are the worst in more than 40 years.
We have to expedite our military reform so that we have the ability to defend ourselves. And given the size of Taiwan compared to the size of the PRC, developing asymmetric capability is the key for us.
How prepared is Taiwan today?
We are trying to make us stronger in every aspect, and it includes our military capability and our international support.
Support bolstered, she says, by Taiwan's critical importance to the global supply chain. The island is a world leader in semiconductors. Taiwan was Asia's fastest growing economy last year, a fact President Tsai proudly points out over lunch.
This is one of my favorite foods.
All right.
Despite everything, she appears calm and confident.
You talked about how really the situation is so complex now.
Yeah, it is very complex. This is probably the most challenging time for people of Taiwan.
You read the outside headlines, the most dangerous place on earth.
We read these reports as a reminder to us as to what sort of the threats that we're under, and we have to get ourselves better prepared. But we're not panicked, we're not anxious because we have gone through so many difficulties in the past.
She says Taiwan's future must be decided by its people, the people who've worked hard over the last 70 years to build the world's only Chinese-speaking democracy, a democracy under growing threat.
Meanwhile, the threat at the 3,488-kilometer India-China border, known as the Line of Actual Control, continues as well. 60,000 battle-hardened Indian troops are preparing to spend a second winter in the treacherous heights of eastern Ladakh to stall any further Chinese incursions. The talks between the two countries have deadlocked after some initial success. Now China has gone ahead and passed a land law that is not just legitimizing its aggression at the LAC, but also indicating that the Chinese will remain unyielding in border negotiations. Last week, China passed a new law for its land border areas to essentially justify its aggressive actions at the LAC. The new law says China will take measures to safeguard its territorial integrity and its land boundaries. It will combat any act that undermines this. It will strengthen its border defenses. It will settle civilians in border areas and improve public services and infrastructure here. The law also says it will promote coordination between border defense and social and, more importantly, economic development in such areas. Now, India hasn't taken too kindly to this new law as winter approaches in eastern Ladakh and the standoff at the LAC enters its 18th month.
India said the legislation can have implications on the existing bilateral pacts on border management and on overall boundary question. It also said that it expects that China will avoid undertaking action under the pretext of the law that could unilaterally alter the situation in the India-China border areas.
Even though the law is not meant specifically for the border with India, it is a cause of concern. China shares its 22,457-kilometer land boundary with 14 countries. Its border dispute is primarily with two countries, India and Bhutan. India's border with China runs along several states between Jammu and Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh. It is not fully demarcated, and the process of clarifying and confirming the LAC has not moved, as it does not suit China, that forever wants to keep territorial pressure on India. While some experts say the new law is hot air and will not impact anything on the ground, others disagree. They say the new law is an indication that China will take a tougher stand in boundary negotiations and the subsequent Corps Commander level talks. Now, while India and China remain deadlocked over disengaging in eastern Ladakh, China and Bhutan have signed a memorandum of understanding to speed up their border negotiations. With Nivedita Singh in New Delhi, I'm Shreya Dhondial. Now, it is no secret that China is on a mission mode to build its arsenal of weapons as it races to achieve its goal of world domination. It surprised and worried the world last week, testing a hypersonic missile with the ability to circle around the globe, dodge radars and hit targets. It was a message to the United States of America, with whom China is engaged in what we call strategic competition. India this week sent its own message to China, firing up its Agni 5 missile. Take a look.
3, 2, 1.
It is called Agni 5 and it's India's most potent nuclear weapon ever. As it was test fired for the 8th time off the coast of Odisha, it delivered not only on its target 5,000 kilometers away, it also delivered a stern message to China. We will not use the nuclear-capable missile first, but we have the capacity and the capability to hit even the northernmost outpost of your country. The Agni 5 is an intercontinental ballistic missile that travels at 24 times the speed of sound and can hit its target with great precision. Wednesday's launch was the 8th in 9 years and important for a couple of reasons. First, it was the first user launch by the armed forces. So think of it as Agni 5's formal induction into India's arsenal. And secondly, this was the first time Agni 5 was launched at night, which means the missile can comfortably be operated anytime the requirement arises. Agni 5 is an intercontinental ballistic missile and, as the name suggests, is part of the larger Agni family. Agni 1 to Agni 5 come with a range of 700 to 7,000 kilometers. Agni 5 is operationally better than the earlier variants because it is a canister-launched missile to ensure lesser maintenance as well as swifter transportation and firing. It has high survivability rating because of its mobility and the fact that it is easier to hide from the prying eyes of the enemy. The Agni missiles are part of India's nuclear triad, with the capacity and capability to deliver nuclear weapons from land, from air through fighters like Rafale and the Mirages, and from sea through ballistic missile submarines like the INS Arihant. Meanwhile, the star in China's missile arsenal is the Dongfeng 41 with a range of 12,000 to 15,000 kilometers, which means it can hit any Indian city. But there is something far more dangerous on the way. China recently surprised and concerned the world, testing its hypersonic missile that glided across the globe but didn't quite hit its target. Hypersonic missiles are designed to travel at such high speeds that they can fly great distances and move quickly through heavily defended airspace to attack targets before they can be successfully shot down. China and Russia and America are all developing hypersonic weapon programs that have added jet fuel to the nuclear arms race already underway in the world. According to the Stockholm International Peace Institute, Russia has the largest nuclear stockpile at 6,255. The US is second on the list with 5,550. China is third with 350 nuclear warheads. Pakistan has 165 and India has 156. In New Delhi, I'm Shreya Dhondial. The Agni program is being capped at a range of 5,000 kilometers. But if the security situation changes in South Asia and the world, the DRDO is perfectly capable of making missiles with much longer ranges. On that note, a quick break. Up next, how does China, which shares a border with 14 countries, have a territorial dispute with 23? That report is coming up next. Do stay with us. Why is Xi Jinping pitting China against the world? A border clash with India, a bitter trade war with Australia, the growing rivalry with the US, the deteriorating relationship with the UK, and of course an open threat to Taiwan to cede or face an invasion. The global backlash against China is growing, and yet the dragon has made no attempt to recalibrate. The world has been pushed to choose a side, and no right-minded democracy trusts China right now, especially after COVID-19. For years, China tried to convince the world that its rise was peaceful. Our next report is telling you how that was just a PR exercise that failed miserably.
China's claims of sovereignty over Galwan Valley are the first since the War of 1962, making the relatively peaceful area of the LAC a major flashpoint. And it isn't only over its border with India that President Xi's China has manufactured a problem.
We've been saying it for 60 years. When Tibet was occupied, Mao Zedong and other Chinese leaders said Tibet is the palm we must occupy, then go after 5 fingers. And the first finger is Ladakh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh.
China has big territorial ambitions. The country shares its border with 14 countries, but has taken claim to territories of 23 countries.
Their most recent intimidation has been against Taiwan. The China-Taiwan dispute isn't new, but China has been stepping up its offenses of late. Chinese warplanes enter Taiwan's air defense space daily. On October 15, China sent a record 56 warplanes into Taiwan. China claims Taiwan is its territory, but the democratic island nation looks at itself as sovereign. But Taiwan isn't the only country China is trying to bully its way into. Given China's increased aggression in the South China Sea and at the LAC with India, a group of nations under the Quad and AUKUS have been conducting naval exercises to secure the Indo-Pacific region. Keeping in mind the China threat, the Indian Navy is also adding to its arsenal. The indigenous aircraft carrier Vikrant will be seaworthy by mid-2022.
Amid the pandemic, China has been increasing presence in the South China Sea, one of the world's busiest maritime trade routes. It serves as a passage for annual trade worth $3.5 trillion. China has island and maritime border disputes with Taiwan, Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Vietnam in the South China Sea and its extension. The disputes include islands, reefs, banks, and other features in the South China Sea, including Spratly Islands, Paracel Islands, Scarborough Shoal, and the Gulf of Tonkin. China also has exclusive economic zone disputes with North Korea, South Korea, and Japan in the Yellow Sea and East China Sea. The dragon claims Japan's Senkaku Islands. It hasn't even spared Nepal and has encroached upon its northern districts. With China signaling its intent to establish dominance over its territory and beyond, its neighbors must now ask themselves some tough questions. How hard are they willing to push back to defend their own sovereignty? And at what cost? There may be no easy answers. Natasha Mendon, CNN News 18.
With that, it's a wrap from me. Thanks for watching.